Peace family, it's Camson the Oracle, one half of Remnants Gathering, aka Weirdo Gang Gang. And I wanted to do another Akashic download. Now, I've already done one of these on the channel. At this point, with these particular things coming through, I call them Akashic downloads because they are lessons to life. But oftentimes there are lessons that have been wrapped up in the labyrinth, and so it's something that you've probably been seeking and searching and needing to get confirmation on, and you hadn't been able to. And so when I'm speaking of the Akash and of that energy, that is it is basically an ancient data system. Okay. And this information comes to me in meditation, and sometimes I'll get these Akashic downloads when it's something that I'm experiencing, that I'll search, and just be open to receive a channeled message. And so being an oracle, and some call it a mama wata, if you look into African spirituality. They are also called seers. The particular seers that were actually used by the Roman Catholic Church, believe it or not, that they will consult with these seers, also called Sibyls, Sybils. For those of you who may be awakening oracles, or for those of you who just may be interested in learning more about it as you are going through this ascension process of spiritually awakening. So the Akashic download that I want to share today, this would really be Akashic download number 3. But I have one other that I have not put out yet. And I'm going to put this one out first, and then I'll put the other out. And eventually I'm going to continue to do these. But when I kind of touch on it and go more in depth about it, that will be something that we'll be having on the website for members. So just to let you all know that this is not one of those things that I start and I don't keep doing. Usually if I start something, I keep doing it. But this is something that I plan on doing infinitely because it's something that I have been instructed to do for the souls that are awakening. So I wanted to share with you about suffering, struggle, strife, resistance. All of those things, they're very similar, but all of those things are a choice. And up until this point, I did not understand that suffering and strife was a choice that I could choose or not choose. And, what happens is situations happen in life and it makes you feel resistance, right? If it's something that was terrible that happened, it could be a death, sickness, loss of job, just a breakup, it's so many various things that we experience and can experience potentially at any point in time. That can cause you to have this emotional, this deep emotional wounding where you feel wounded, you feel hurt. To suffer, or as it moves into strife, that means that there is this force of energy that is present in your life, and it's causing an emotion. And instead of you listen to the key word, allowing yourself to just experience that experience and observe it and practice holding on to no judgment about the experience. This is my experience, but I don't have a judgment for it, So initially your judgment may be that was horrible what happened, or that was bad what she said or did. But you have the choice whether or not you hold on to it. You have the choice whether or not you support the polarity, the contrast. That's where the strife and the struggle and the suffering comes in. It's because you're not allowing energy to move, which is what it's supposed to do. So what happens is you'll find yourself stuck in an energy that you were supposed to actually go into and eventually come out of. Then a period of time that you stay in a certain energy that is not high vibrational is different from person to person. But there are some key factors that happen when you can tell that you're hanging on to it. So if everybody that you talk to or everybody that called, you talk about this. You talk about this thing that happened at work. You talk whatever the negative experience was that you had. If you find yourself rehashing the story over and over and over again, then you are choosing to suffer from that experience. You are choosing that. It's a choice. And if I would have heard somebody say this a few years ago, even, I would have been like, I would have been upset. Like, it is no way that you're telling me that I'm choosing to suffer. I have an illness that causes my bones to deteriorate and causes my blood to not carry enough oxygen. And so these symptoms that I'm having is very painful. And here you are telling me that I'm choosing to suffer because I had not experienced the level of spiritual awakening that I'm on in my path. So that would have been offensive to me. But as you begin to learn how to humble yourself and set the ego aside, things that once offended you cause curiosity, and you observe and you research and you search it out until you find something that resonates. And that's what has happened. This resonates and I get it now. Now, this is what made me get it. Life uses really, really simple things to teach you when you're third eye is open to see these lessons. Okay. And so these are little things that you would overlook. And this is what the inner eye does. The inner eye doesn't just work with visualization, meditation, and connecting to the inner worlds and the unseen realm, but it also helps you to see things you wouldn't normally see in your reality, in your physical world. So, and my cat, I threw something down just to see if she would eat it. And if it's something she don't want, after she observe it, she would just walk off and go and do whatever she was doing. She wouldn't feel like she needed to sit and make me, make sure that I don't feel bad about the fact that she doesn't want it. She's not worried about, well, if I walk off, is she gonna think I'm rejecting her? So let me just sit here by this food that I don't want, or let me just pretend that I want it, or let me just force myself to eat it because I don't want her to be upset. She would just walk off. And the lesson in that was, let's say she was hungry and that was the only thing I had given her. Instead of her just sitting there looking at it and it's just frustrating her more and more, and now she's thinking about the fact that there is nothing else to eat, she just goes and finds something else to do because she is not choosing to suffer. So it doesn't mean that the hunger may go away. It may not. But she is not going to hang on to the situation, nor is she going to hang on to analyzing why I gave her something she didn't want to eat and why I hadn't given her anything else. And, she just walks off. And animals teach these lessons to us. And it really allows me to see that when the Bible talked about the days where humans would become like animals, right? And they would be having sex with same-sex people and each other, and they would be like animals. And, and I remember reading that and just being like, I really don't know what I feel about this after I had began to awaken. But looking at my animal, there was a level of intelligence there, a level of maturity that I didn't have prior to the experience. So before this happened today, I had another lesson, which was I wasn't feeling well. And I do periodically get blood transfusions if my blood levels are just extremely low. And I know y'all like, it's a lot of herbs and chlorophyll, and I do all of that. If it's something new out there, I'm willing to try it, but I definitely tried it all. Everything that has come across my way. So, but that's not the topic of the conversation. Y'all don't have to try to feel like y'all got to find a way to heal me. I appreciate y'all. But usually when I mention something like that, I get a lot of comments like, you can use this and use that. So I'm totally open to whatever you want to share with me. But I don't want to get off the message that I'm channeling. But I just feel like I needed to address that and say thank you when you all do share stuff with me. But a situation happened where me getting to the doctor's office on time was difficult. Got a lot of family stuff, a lot going on. So I was late getting there. But I was made a lot later because when I got there, the checking your temperature and the mask and sanitizing your hands and all of that. So it just made me even later. And by the time I got to the desk, they were just like, it's too late to see you. We'll have to try to find somebody else to see you. And in that moment, I was very upset. I was frustrated. And because I have been practicing observing myself in a non-judgmental manner and not being critical of myself, I was able to just observe myself. So I still experienced the emotion and I allowed it to move and I allowed the frustration to move through me. And I called Ernest and I vented about it. And then once I was done venting about it, I was done with it. And it was a choice. I had to make a choice to be done with it. Exactly how Spinks, my cat, chose to just be done with it. Just be done with it. So what happens is we have gotten so used to holding on to vibrations that don't feel good just because it's familiar. And so as you are awakening, you have to reprogram yourself to let stuff go. But if you're still dealing with childhood wounds of not being validated and not being affirmed and nurtured properly, then sometimes you're holding on to negative vibrations, not just because it's familiar and it's part of your program, so it feels normal to do that, but it's because you're fearful of experiencing something new on a subconscious level. So it's just like, okay, somebody could say, well, just let it go. That's what happened. Let it go. Why do you keep talking about what your boss said and what, you shared it with me, you got, and you will get offended. And you'll be like, how you gonna tell me to let something go? So just because I've already vented one time, that means that I'm supposed to be past it? We'll get defensive and protect the negative emotion that we're holding on to because on a subconscious level, we fear getting past it because it's just like that's an uncertain place. Well, if I let go of it, then maybe it's not going to work out right. I need to work through it. I need to make sure that I work through all of it. Like we'll tell ourselves a lot of lies just so that we stay stuck. Because the ego was put there to keep us safe. The ego is there to be rigid, to not let a whole lot of uncertainty enter into your life, to not allow you, change because it's trying to keep you safe. That's what the program of having these wounds in childhood did. So the ego is like, no, it's safer for you to just be mad than it is for you to try this new thing that you heard Camson say, or maybe Abraham Hicks teachings, and she teaches about being in the vortex of certain things and being able to just let it go and think about something else if you're thinking about something that doesn't feel good to you. Because I know for me, I felt like that was some type of bypassing when I first heard her say that. And it was just like, no, I need to deal with this. And if that means that I'm going to be mad for 3 days, that's what I need to do. And I didn't realize that it's a choice and I could choose how long I'm angry. And so because of a lot of the different love attachment issues that we have, we don't know that suffering is a choice. Frustration is a choice. How long we're in it, it's a choice. We're not powerless and we're not victims anymore. Awakening means you awaken to the reality that I'm not a victim of anything. I am a God. I am a goddess. I am an extension of source here to co-create. I'm not a victim to my circumstances. I'm not a victim to anything. That's the self-realization of your own sovereignty and your divinity, and that you are accountable and responsible for what you create in your life. And this is determined on how long you hold on to stuff. So take this lesson from my cat that if something that's in front of you or whatever is happening is a bit much for you, let that emotion move through you. But be sure that you practice self-love by letting it move through you. Don't let it get stuck. Just make sure that the energy moves through you by being aware of yourself, by using your deep breathing. These are many ways to just help calm yourself, to be centered and grounded, even if you're in the middle of a argument and you just stop and take a moment and be aware, breathe, allow yourself to be grounded, call for help and release, be willing to release the energy so that you can be back in alignment with source, back in alignment with your higher self. Choose that I don't want to stay here. It's okay for me to experience this because I'm not going to deny my emotions. I'm not going to repress them. And I'm not going to ignore my own emotional needs. I acknowledge it. If I need to vent, I vent. And then I let it go. Because one thing about positive people, they have negative experiences, but they don't store them. And so the reason that we're having to heal a lot of the things we're healing now is because a lot of the trauma, we've stored it. We've stored it on many levels. Physically, it's stored in your body. It's stored in your memory. Certain smells and certain songs bring that whole moment back to you because we've stored it. And so we're learning how to go into these chambers, these containers within ourselves, and set ourselves free from some of the troubles that we have not been able to release. So even though my situation did not change, finding out that I couldn't be seen and, get the labs and whatever else I needed to do for myself, and I'm not going to be able to do it, I still had a choice in how I reacted to it. And so I flipped the coin on his head and I said, instead of letting this store inside of me, I'm going to experience it and let it move through me. I don't have to hold on to it. I choose to be a positive person. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. But what it does mean is that positive things is what I store. Negative things I allow to move through me. The positive things, yes, I store those things. I have space to put positive things in the compartments that once held trauma. That is a choice. And I know that when situations happen to me, no matter how bad it feels, it's always, listen to the key word, it is always something that I can make useful. Always. Until you identify yourself less with being a victim and more with being a god or goddess in control of the reality that you are weaving, you will know that I always have a choice and that I always can take something that was negative and make it useful. This is the inner conversation of a new earth creator. I always have a choice, and I always can make something useful from something that could have potentially caused trauma. Man, your third eye has just been kissed. Peace.